All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops at Great Millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Knapp, coming out with another lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. I found this on aljazeera.com. It says Cuba electric grid collapses amid U.S. oil blockade causing national blackout. Cuba has not received oil shipments since early January amid U.S. pressure, worsening the humanitarian crisis on the island. So the reason why this is important to see what's going on in the world is because all this shit's coming here to Babylon the Great. All right, you ain't gonna have any oil. You ain't gonna have any lights. You ain't gonna have any safety and all of that. That's what Jacob's trouble is about. Let's start over there in the book of Jeremiah. I'm going to Bible Hub real quick, see how they break it down. We ain't gonna have shit over here, man. So all of the Lord's showing these things because all of this shit's gonna happen over here. You're gonna be faced with the same shit these people are going through, but the Lord's leaving the best for last. So we gotta be prepared for this. Jeremiah 30:6. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Let's go and let's see what this is talking about. And ask now and see, this phrase invites the audience to consider the situation carefully. It is a call to observe and reflect on the current state of affairs. In the context of Jeremiah, this is a prophetic message urging the people to recognize the severity of their circumstances. The use of ask and see suggests an inquiry into the reality of their condition, encouraging introspection and awareness, right? It's like it tells you in the book of Ephesians, the 5th chapter. You got to be circumspect, okay? And being circumspect means you got to be watching what's going on. You can't be too occupied in the world. I mean, you got to be in the world. You got to, you got to be balanced and do things. But your main objective, at least being a man of the Lord or prophesying or just being part of the elect, because the Lord's only coming to save the elect. If you're not part of that number, you ain't making your call in an election sure, then just keep doing what you do. All right, this doesn't pertain to you, but the elect, they're going to, things that pertain to their salvation, that's on the forefront of their minds. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. So you got to see what's going on. Can a male give birth? This rhetorical question highlights the absurdity, I can't say this, absurdity. I said it right, okay. Absurdity of the situation, since I already canceled out, of the situation being described. In ancient Near Eastern culture, childbirth was exclusively a female experience, and the imagery of a man in labor would have been shocking and unnatural. This serves to emphasize the intensity of the distress and fear that the men of Judah are experiencing, also the whole nation and everybody. The imagery underscores the unnaturalness of the situation, pointing to a time of unprecedented crisis and upheaval. Okay, so imagine a time with no lights, no police, just complete chaos. All right, this is what Jacob's trouble's going into. Why then do I see every man with his hands on his stomach like a woman in labor? The imagery of men clutching their stomachs as if in labor signifies extreme anguish and fear. This metaphor is used to convey the depth of the emotional and physical turmoil facing the people. In the broader biblical context, labor pains are often used as a metaphor for times of great distress and impending judgment. Let's grab their precepts, Isaiah 13:8. So you got to be prepared for these things. This is all biblical. The day of judgment on the day of the Lord, Isaiah 13:6. How ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand, it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. The same thing like it says in Jeremiah. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. So it's all matching up. Matthew 24:8. So Jeremiah is matching up with Isaiah. Isaiah is matching up with what the Lord was saying in Matthew 24. Matthew 24 and 8. All these are the beginning of sorrow. So this is just the beginning, because all of this is going to come to Babylon. All right. So this famine's already kicking off. This Jake's in Cuba. It goes back to Manasseh. That's Jake. They're going through it already. But this is just simple forms of it. The MOTB hasn't even been established yet. But yet the Lord is giving these specific things, and we gotta watch about these situations, because the way the people react is the same way they're gonna react during this time. And if you've been watching, you're gonna be noticing, okay, when this happened over here, people were doing this. And when that happened over here, people were doing this. So it's good to watch these things so you're just ready all the time, because we know we got the prophecies, but to see it and match it up with the prophecies and thinking, okay, yeah, this is, that's how the Lord is getting you ready. This phrase suggests that the coming judgment is so severe that it causes even the strongest to be overwhelmed with fear and pain. So, none of us know what Jacob's trouble is going to be like. I always hint to fucking some shit up, but I don't know. Who knows? I might be scared as hell in that time, I might be holding my stomach like a woman in travail. You don't know, and it's just speculation. But you want to be ready for everything, man. Even giving up the ghost, man. So it's good to have your mindset of all these brothers have different dreams about all types of stuff that they share, but that's because they're thinking about Jacob trouble so much that your mind's trying to formulate, different scenarios, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. What precept am I looking for? A wise man often thinks about death. Ecclesiastes 7. Ecclesiastes 7 and 4. Let's go there real quick. Ecclesiastes 7 and 4, it says it right here, states that a wise person focuses on the reality of death and mortality, whereas a fool dwells only on pleasure and merriment. This reflection on death is meant to provide perspective, encouraging people to live purposefully, seek wisdom, and understand that life is fleeting, ultimately guiding them toward a meaningful life rather than trivial pleasure. Okay, so, not that, it's not a bad thing. You don't know what Jacob's trouble gonna bring. Ecclesiastes 7 and 4. Let me grab it again. I want to grab it. It's better in the NLT. It says, a wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. So we want to be in that wise mindset. Ecclesiastes 7 and 4 in the KJV. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools in the house of mirth. So you out here playing all the time. You're always trying to go from one pleasure to the next. You're never thinking about, the destruction. And that's what it says about how the mindset of the people before the destruction came. They were eating and drinking and giving into marriage. So, our mind's not really on that. We know we're going to get everything and more when we get to the kingdom. So to lose something on this side, you really ain't losing anything. All right. Let me just finish this. I didn't even get to the article. This phrase suggests that the coming judgment is so severe that it causes even the strongest to be overwhelmed with fear and pain. And every face turned pale. Paleness of face is a common biblical expression for fear and terror. Nahum 2 and 10. Let's grab that. Nahum chapter 2. In verse number 10, it says, she is empty and void and waste, and the heart melteth, and the knees smite together, and the much pain is in all loins, and the faces of them are all gathered blackness. Let me read that in the NLT. Nahum 2 and 10 in the NLT. Soon the city is plundered, empty and ruined. Hearts melt and knees shake. The people stand aghast, their faces pale and trembling, because they don't know what to do. Okay. They don't know what to do in this time, man. But we know, according to Isaiah 33 and 6, that wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of the times. We know these times are coming. So just that alone puts you at an advantage to other people, because people think, things are gonna get better. Don't worry about this. This is probably what they telling them in the church. No, it's gonna get worse. Depicts the total violent destruction and looting of Nineveh. Modern day Nineveh is America, the capital of Assyria, as divine judgment for its cruelty. And that's the same thing with America. Same thing they're gonna, for the controversy of Zion, Isaiah 34:8. The verse uses Hebrew poetic imagery, emptiness, melting hearts, knocking knees, and pale faces to illustrate the utter panic, fear, and desolation that consumed the city's inhabitants upon its collapse. And then, where are we at in this time? This place is about to collapse. It indicates a loss of color due to shock or fright, symbolizing the dread that has gripped the people. This imagery reinforces the message of impending doom and the profound impact of the coming judgment. That's right. The paleness of face can also be seen as a sign of the people's realization of their helplessness in the face of divine judgment. Right, and you don't want to have that. But it's really Jeremiah 30:7 what I was looking for. But it kind of leads into that. Jeremiah 30:7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So let's look that up. See what it's talking about. Plenty of good precepts. How awful that day will be. This phrase refers to a future period of intense tribulation and judgment. In biblical prophecy, that day often signifies the day of the Lord, a time when God intervenes directly in human affairs. This period is characterized by unprecedented suffering and upheaval, as seen in other prophetic books like Joel and Zephaniah. Now, the day of the Lord is Jacob's trouble is leading into taking the MOTB and all that, and World War III. That's all part of Jacob's trouble. But the day of the Lord is the day Yahweh Shai. Ultimately, all of this Jacob's trouble leading all the way up to really the day of the Lord is when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay, and the thermonuclear destruction. That's showing the wrath of the Lord. But the wrath is also going to be shown during Jacob's trouble too. But it's going to come to the full when the thermonuclear missiles goes off, and when Yahweh Shai returns. That's it all in bunched up, them fighting against the Lord, and then the judgment. Okay, how awful that day will be. Okay, the language used here echoes the apocalyptic imagery found in the book of Revelation, suggesting a time of divine reckoning. None will be like it. This emphasizes the unparalleled nature of the coming tribulation. Historically, Israel has faced numerous trials, such as the Babylonian exile and Roman destruction, but this prophecy points to a future event that surpasses all previous calamities. The uniqueness of this day is also highlighted in Daniel 12:1, which speaks of a time of trouble unlike any before. This suggests a global impact affecting not just Israel, but all nations, right? Because it's ultimately Jacob's trouble comes to the full, pretty much, it's really the events that lead up into the MOTB. When you read the book of Job, the 5th chapter, it tells you that. Job 5:15 or somewhere around there. It says, but Job 5:15. Let me see, is it? No, it starts at 19. Job 5:19. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. 6 troubles is Jacob's trouble. Okay, and the events prior to that lead up to it. Okay, and the MOTB, having the MOTB's right around the corner. So never mind the cyber attacks, the T attacks, you might lose your money, getting kicked out of your house, being a pilgrim in the earth, going through a famine. All of that, people, 2nd Edges 15 and 16, they shall use the sword against one another. They, and go into people's houses, and you shall not be able to go into another city. That's all part of Jacob's trouble. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee, but in 7, which is completion, is the day of the Lord, when the thermonuclear missiles come. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. That's Jacob's trouble. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue. Neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. Neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth. So the Lord got different judgments. You Jeremiah the 15th chapter, he talks about the beasts to devour and tear. Such as are from death to death, such as are for the captivity to the captivity, such as are for the famine to the famine, such as are for the sword to the sword. So that's all part of Jacob's trouble. Job 5 verse 23, for thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. So, I keep forgetting what's being in league with the stones of the field. What does that mean? It serves as a poetic description of divine blessing and restoration, often interpreted as living in harmony with all of creation, right? Being in league with something is like, how I look at that is that, it's going to protect you, for whatever reason. I don't know how, but you're going to see. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's look this up. It promises a righteous person that the stones of the field, implying obstacles or rocky soil, will not hinder them, and wild animals will not hurt them, reflecting a covenant of peace with all creation. That's beautiful. Okay. Because we're going to have to be like pilgrims in the earth. And to have a covenant, knowing that the Lord's word, because anything can happen to you when you out there, man. You in the woods somewhere, you can hurt yourself, man. Especially, our bodies we've been so comfortable. Even if you work out every day, your body's still not trained to constantly go. You're used to getting rest. You probably got your battery probably work for about 8 hours, and you ready to go to bed. But there might be times where you might not be able to sleep because you got to keep it moving. Just like the Exodus to Egypt. It says, it is time of Jacob's distress. Jacob refers to the nation of Israel, descended from the patriarch Jacob. The time of Jacob's distress is often interpreted as the Great Tribulation, a period of severe testing and purification for Israel. And that's exactly what it is. It's to purify his elect. It tells you in Zechariah 13:8 that 2/3 are not going to make it through this tribulation, this purification process, because they're not gonna have the faith in order to endure. They're gonna take the chip. They're gonna make the wrong decisions. They're gonna be protesting against the government, getting put to death, joining other militias and shit to fight the government. They're gonna be, dying of famine. So all these things, they're not gonna be trusting in the Lord. They're gonna be trusting in their own mind. And that's what's ultimately going to get them destroyed. This concept is rooted in the covenant relationship between God and Israel, where periods of distress are used to bring the nation back to faithfulness. The distress serves as a catalyst for repentance and spiritual renewal, aligning with themes found in Hosea and Amos. Right, like Amos 9 and 8. Or I should say Amos 9 and 10. Okay. I'll start at 8. Amos 9 and 8. Behold, the eyes of the Lord God are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. So he's not going to utterly destroy the house of Jacob, which is his elect, but he's going to destroy this sinful kingdom that we live in today. Amos 9 and 9, for lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like a corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. And if you don't know how a sieve works, you shake it, and get all the things you don't want. So you gotta shake the sieve, and then the things that you don't want fall to the bottom. But then the things that you do want, you keep that. So that's how the Lord's gonna shake things up. But it's all to gather his elect, and the undesirables, they gonna fall. Amos 9:10, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. So some people think it ain't gonna happen, so we're gonna see when it does. Okay. But he will be saved out of it. Despite the severity of the tribulation, there's a promise of deliverance. This reflects God's enduring covenant with Israel, ensuring their ultimate restoration and redemption. The phrase, he will be saved out of it, points to a future hope where God intervenes to rescue his people. Yeah, and his people in this time are the elect of Israel. This deliverance is often associated with the coming of the Messiah, who will establish a kingdom of peace and justice. The assurance of salvation is a recurring theme in the prophetic literature, offering hope amidst judgment, as seen in Isaiah and Zechariah. So let's see what this is talking about.
Cuba electric grid collapses amid U.S. oil blockade, causing national blackout, by AFP and Reuters. Cuba's national power grid has collapsed amid an ongoing United States-imposed oil blockade on the island nation.
And what did Mojaba say? Mojaba said, you want to continue to escalate? Well, we're going to turn that whole region dark. He said something along the lines of that. Okay. And Mojaba ain't been talking. They said they want to continue to, I got this right here. Iran does not seek ceasefire, but war must end, FM says. So they ain't looking for no ceasefire. I didn't read the article, but they ain't looking for no ceasefire. Okay.
The collapse on Monday left the entire country of about 10 million without power, according to the Union Nacional Eléctrica de Cuba, UNI. The state-owned company said it was working to restore electricity flows. It added that it was investigating what caused the, quote, complete shutdown of the national grid. No oil has been imported to Cuba since January 9th amid the U.S. pressure campaign.
Now imagine that. Now you ain't getting no oil into your country. Now what if that happened over here? Since January 9th. No oil. So they ain't not getting food, and it's already talking about restrictions of food and energy shortages. Okay, you need gas to put the stove on to even cook the food. So they don't have any food and no way to cook it. Okay, the energy is running low. Now they're protesting, they don't know what to do. They're in the dark. Now, Cuba's been doing this, they've been through this multiple times. So, they're a little more, even though it sucks and this is for a long time, I mean, it's hard, but Cubans, especially those Cubans over there, man, those are some very resilient people, because they've been dealing with this shit for a long damn time. But it's not gonna be like that over here, because you people are too soft. In Babylon, they ain't really nothing ever happened. Caribbean people, they used to not having electricity all the time. They get it. It's good when it's here, but they're not. The Lord don't got it where they super reliant on it like we are over here in Babylon. They can go. They might have throughout the week, maybe 2 or 3 days out the week, you get 2-3 hours of electricity to watch a show real quick. Then it shut back off, and you back to being outside talking to your people, and just everything's about, the people. It ain't really about being online and talking like this place. Everything has to be online, and it's just weird, man.
The U.S. military abduction of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, the government of Venezuela's interim leader Delcy Rodriguez, agreed to stifle oil shipments to Cuba. U.S. President Donald Trump subsequently threatened other countries, notably Mexico, with sanctions if they delivered fuel to the island, which relies almost solely on oil imports.
So he even getting other people. Cuba done helped so many people out. So many people, even America. They cured Ebola. Their doctors are the best in the world. They done helped so many people out. And it's like the whole world saying, fuck you. That's why the Lord's going to do it to this place. It's crazy. You know, it's how fast somebody forgets what you've done for them, and then later when something goes wrong, you're gonna be seeking their help, and they're gonna be like, "Fuck you."
His administration has openly said it sought regime change in communist-led Cuba, which had been under a decades-long U.S. trade embargo prior to the most recent actions. Reuters news agency reported that Cuba has received only 2 small vessels carrying oil imports this year, citing SEG ship tracking data it reviewed. Earlier this month, a blackout hit 2/3 of the country, mainly in the center and west, for over a day after a breakdown at the Antonio Guterres power plant, the island's largest. The U.S. actions have further strained Cuba's years-long economic woes, causing a humanitarian crisis amid widespread shortages of fuel, food, and medicine.
Yeah, same shit that's gonna happen here. You ain't gonna have any food, fuel, or medicine. That's why they're telling people online to go stack up on all types of shit right now. I ain't buy a damn thing, man. As a matter of fact, even IUIC got a little bug out bag. I'm gonna have to go see what they got in their bug out bag. That's actually a good idea. They might have some see what type of ideas they got. You know, that's actually really smart. You know, especially when you see what's going on. There ain't nothing wrong with having a bug out bag. Don't let anyone deceive you, man. If you got a little bit, Joseph prepared for the famine. He knew a famine was coming. You know a famine is coming. If you but that ain't gonna save you. You know, this ain't the time in Egypt. You know, this is Jacob's trouble. This is a little bit different. But if you could, you know, you got a little, I don't know. They had this thing in I didn't buy it, but they had like a doomsday pack where it's just all dried foods already pre-stored at Costco. It's like $60. You can get a whole little thing. Now, is that a bad investment? No. You know, is it gonna save you? No. You know, because Esau got the mindset, he think he can save himself. That's why he's storing all his shit in his cupboards. He got his whole basement filled with all types of canned goods and shit. Like, he gonna eat it. He ain't gonna eat that shit. He'll have a whole pantry full of mad shit and he'll kill you and eat your meat. That nigga don't need that. All right, but ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, people are saying, you know, it's good to have, you know, even some of these dudes who are bug outs. You know, I listen to a lot of bug outs because they're watching. You know, you kind of got to be bugged out in this time to stay focused on what really matters. You know, people of this world, they go along to get along. Everyone's happy every single day, and they want to maintain that unbalancedness. I'm good with all of that. You know, people are suffering throughout the world. You know, things are going on in all over the world, man. I'm debating if I should play this. Protesters in Cuba attack Communist Party office in rare riot over blackouts, and that's the first thing I'm gonna do. It tells you in the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. I think that's 15. But that's because, you know, when your power's going out, you're gonna blame somebody. You know, a lot of these people, they're gonna go up against, they're gonna blame it on their leaders. And that's exactly what you're seeing on a low scale. 2nd Esdras 15:4, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. And this modern day sword's the gun. They're gonna be fighting each other. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And that's what they're doing, going up against these different, as a matter of fact, let me play it, but hold on. I just want to see what it says. Protesters clash with authorities in Cuba over blackouts and shortages. They burning shit up. They're going to be burning shit over here too. Throwing rocks and shit. Some people are more wild than others, man. The people who actually probably throwing shit probably been watching the news, constantly being activated, knowing this shit was gonna happen. People waving their flag. It was like little kids doing stupid shit. I'm surprised the police ain't putting some of them to death, like they were doing in Iran.
The conditions have fomented rare public unrest on the island, with protesters torching a Communist Party office over the weekend. Rights groups have warned against any U.S. attempts to rally dissent by worsening the living conditions for residents. President Miguel Diaz-Canel confirmed last week that his government had held talks with the Trump administration. Trump, who has previously suggested a, quote, friendly takeover of Cuba, said on Sunday that Cuba wants to make a deal. His top officials, meanwhile, have vowed the U.S. will continue to take a militaristic approach to Latin America, even as the U.S. fights a war against Iran alongside Israel. I think we will pretty soon either make a deal or do whatever we have to do, Trump said, by AFP and Reuters.
So there you go. And he probably gonna come in there and steal your shit, put y'all to death. While you put your guard down. 2 Edges 15 and 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. This is gonna be like military checkpoints, martial law. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Going back into Jacob's trouble. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. You know, and during this time where there ain't no lights, there's nobody to call upon, you're gonna have to need, first of all, you're gonna need a man of the Lord, but you women are gonna be screwed. You think these Edomites are your friends, man? They're some nasty motherfuckers. And it ain't just them too. There's Jakes too that are fucking out of their damn minds from all different types of nations. A lot of East Indian freaks. You gotta deal with these pieces of shit, man. So if you ain't with a man of the Lord, it probably ain't gonna work too good for you, man. Because you're gonna go back to what the scriptures call a booty. Let's look that word up. Because that's what you women are. You're a possession, a spoil of war. Numbers 31:32. In the booty being the rest of the prey which the men of war had caught was 600,000 and 70,000 and 5,000 sheep. Let's look this up. Okay, in the book of Numbers, come on. Let's see what it says. It's part of the booty count from the Israelite war against the Midianites, listing the spoils of sheep, cattle, donkeys that were taken. The chapter highlights God's command, to take revenge on Midian for causing Israelite idolatry following a holy war in which Israel was victorious. Okay, let's just look at the word booty. It pretty much means just a spoil. But let's see if it says anything else.
Strong's H4455. Malkoach.
Malkoach. Okay, it means prey, jaw. Okay, how about this? How about I do this, right? Actually, let's dive deeper with AI. Does the booty include women? Yes. The booty in this context specifically included 32,000 young women who were virgins. According to the narrative in Numbers 31, after the Israelite army defeated the Midianites, they initially spared all the women and children. However, Moses was angry because the Midianite woman had previously led Israelites into idolatry at Baal Peor. He then commanded the soldiers to put them to death. Okay, it doesn't say that, but you got to know the story. The third, distribution of the captives. So that's what's going to happen to you. If you ain't with a man of the Lord, you're open to be a possession to some ruthless person that probably will kill you, grape and eat you. Amen. This is what your pastor should be telling you about. It says, no, MAGA is not divided on the Iran war. Trump's supporters remain loyal, even if there are a few loud dissenting voices. Let's listen to this, because, you would think they would. He didn't say nothing about bringing them into war, but these people are stupid anyways.
No, MAGA is not divided on the Iran war. By Andrew Mitrovica. Sometimes, journalists indulge in myths and delusions they claim to decry. This grating inclination has been on almost giddy display in the still evolving aftermath of United States President Donald Trump's rash decision to join Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in launching a war with Iran. Like falling dominoes, a narrative gathered momentum among the America's progressive commentariat, insisting that Trump's order to go to war offended large swaths of the MAGA movement and set off a seismic split in his ardent base. It is a silly myth and a seductive delusion. Sure, a handful of familiar MAGA personalities have grumbled that another Middle East conflict betrays the America First pledge that helped propel Trump back to the White House. Conservative commentator Megyn Kelly has questioned whether the U.S. is drifting yet again into an endless war without purpose or meaning.
And they are. And you know what? This article's full of shit, because if you go on X, there's plenty of right-wing supporters that were speaking up against that shit. Not even just that, just the whole Israeli thing, man. They ain't fucking with them small hats like that. These people don't give a fuck about Israel. Like the real right-wingers, like MTG, she don't give a fuck about them. You talk about America First, what he ran on. A lot of the real American First people defected already because they didn't like what he was doing. Okay, so I'm saying that to say that they don't. There's definitely a split, because MTG got supporters, and there's other people on that MTG, even if you don't know who I'm talking about, Mayor Taylor Greene or something like that. I think that's her initials. She used to support the Duck and then defected because of the Epstein files. She was trying to support him at first, but then, she realized that, especially when it came to the victims, that they weren't being helped, but yet he was supporting Israel way more and doing, whatever her reasons why she left. I know it had to do with the Epstein files, first and foremost. She was talking to some of those ladies and the things that, who knows what she really heard, because she was actually talking to the victims. So they were probably telling her the real shit that people don't even know yet. I saw him eating a baby's eyeball. And they were doing all types of sacrifices, and they smelled like human meat, and so who knows? She probably like, really? These motherfuckers here? And she left that shit. She probably, because I don't know if she's into Christianity, but there's some Edomites that because not everyone's Esau, just because some of them are right wing, but they're Israelites. You don't know yet.
Podcaster Joe Rogan has talked about the conflict's disastrous, unintended consequences. Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson has warned that the unprovoked attack could trigger chaos across an already volatile region. Trump, of course, parried the backlash with trademark coarseness. He lashed out. He dismissed the naysayers. He mocked allies who briefly turned detractors. Headlines blared that a domestic quarrel threatened to engulf his MAGA disciples in a civil war. The idea that MAGA has fractured is fantasy. Disquiet is not rupture. Dissent is not rebellion. The MAGA movement is not a conventional coalition held together by consensus around a coherent, considered set of principles or policies. MAGA remains what it has always been, a political phenomenon built to burnish one man's ego and narcissism. As long as that man is Trump, the movement bends to his designs and whims. It adjusts and inevitably snaps back into loyal line.
Well, that's true. You get some loyalists. That's just how it is. When people move in groups, you get into like this echo chamber, and you just kind of just stick with. It's harder to have your own opinion. You just got everyone else's thoughts in your head, and you can't move according to, your own will. That's why a lot of people, for example, people like the IUIC, when you're faced with the truth, they can't get out of it. The name's wrong. He ain't matching up with his stories. He's switching his doctrine. But because they inside, they don't listen to anybody else. So it's easier. You just keep being around people that are like-minded like you. And that goes for all people, You just stay in your bubble, and you don't let nobody burst it. And that's where they're at. So no matter what he does, he can do no wrong. It's like a cult-like following, So it's like they're in a trance or something. It's a spirit. MAGA means witchcraft in Latin. So he's enchanted them.
That loyalty remains the movement's signature force. For nearly a decade, Trump has tested its limits. He has weathered scandals that would have devoured most politicians. 2 impeachments, criminal convictions, a litany of controversies, including his close and lengthy friendship with the architect of a worldwide sex trafficking ring, the notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Pedophile, that's funny. Yeah. So, he can get through all of this. If he can get through all of this, that shows you the power of the witchcraft that's being put on the people. Especially within these other groups too, like certain ideologies, and, they can get you to follow something that's not even true. That's why the scriptures tell you you gotta examine yourself, man, whether ye be in the faith. Because these people they can still say, the people who follow him will, in the same breath, say that they're Christians, But it tells you in Amos 3:3, can 2 walk together unless they be agreed? So you agree with everything that he's about. Can 2 walk together? Amos 3:3, can 2 walk together except they be agreed? Okay, so you walking with somebody, but I respect it because Edomites are wicked anyways. So that's what they should be doing. You should be even more evil, and a lot of them are. They ain't fucking. They know what they come. They know their roots. They know they ain't shit. Uses the analogy of 2 people traveling together to highlight the necessity of harmony and shared purpose. In context, it signifies that Israel's disobedience meant they were no longer in agreement or walking with God, leading to his judgment. Meaning the walking together signifies a covenant relationship or close partnership. True partnership requires shared direction and mutual consent. So they basically saying they agree, they're cool with all this fucked up shit. Criminal convictions, controversies, sex trafficking rings. They're cool with all that shit, man. And all of his lies. They like to be lied to. But that's good.
Through it all, MAGA has, if anything, tightened its loving embrace of Trump.
Yeah, because if the duck told you the truth, that you're going into slavery and then you're going to die, who want to follow that?
The notion that a fraternal dispute over foreign policy would shatter the vice-like bond is absurd. That bond is emotion. It is visceral. For his embittered supporters, Trump is the embodiment of grievance-fueled defiance. He is a charismatic champion against enemies in Washington, the gilded establishment, the media, the global order who treats them with derision and contempt.
These people, just like during slavery, as long as they feel like they're better than you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you're getting deported. These things are happening to you. They feel protected. That makes them feel good. As long as Israel's getting fucked up, Esau's okay with it. But the only people that are protesting is because now they're getting fucked up. Now that's when he starts to feel it. But all of these things, they don't understand the Lord's doing all of this, showing you how hypocritical this stupid ass nation is. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna start with you. He's gonna fuck up you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and then he's gonna turn around and fuck them up. Okay, and that's hence what Jacob's trouble is about too. They're gonna be fighting each other, and that's all part of it.
Within that parochial framework, Trump's actions at home and abroad are filtered through the prism of fidelity. When Trump unleashes a war,
Fidelity means something about faith. Let's look this up. Means faith. Fidelity means the quality of being faithful, loyal and steadfast in duty, relationships or promises, originating from the Latin fides, faith. It implies devotion to a person, cause, or belief, as well as accuracy or exactness in details. It often refers to loyalty in marriage or accuracy in audio/data reproduction.
that he once opposed, his devout followers accept his shifting rationales, however obtuse or contradictory. They believe he sees threats others ignore. They believe he acts when others hesitate.
Because they're fucking dumb. Okay? Tells you in the book of James, chapter 2. And, is it James 2? No, it is, it might be 1, where he says, James 1:8, yeah, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So he's always switching up what he says this thing, he does another. Describes a person with divided loyalty or doubt who lacks commitment to God, leading to inconsistency in behavior and decisions. That is what it means, but the whole concept of being double-minded is you're like, you ain't one way or the other. You're always switching up. And that's why it says you unstable in all your ways. And this is why everything he does ain't leading to any stability in the country. Okay? And it's not gonna, he's double-minded, and it's gonna cause a collapse. This verse highlights that such a person is fickle, hesitant, and lacks a firm foundation in their faith, making them unstable, right?
Indeed, polls confirm their steadfast confidence in Trump's judgment and his enduring appeal. The Republican Party has always harbored different instincts. Some supporters lean towards isolationism. Others favor aggressive displays of the America's unparalleled power. While there may be hints of
Right. Displays of the America's unparalleled power. That's why he's telling all this bullshit. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna continue to bomb them, and in their head they think this is good. But we'll see when you have to send boots on the ground. And who knows how long this is gonna escalate, because I think somewhere during this term he gonna hit that MOTB. But so that includes martial law. Let's see how they like all of that too. You saw how people were in an uproar about 2020 when they couldn't go to work, and these businesses had to be shut down, and they were told they had to wear a mask. They didn't like that. So how much more when they tell you got to stay in your house and you got to take a MOTB like a damn cat or a dog? So that's the type. If they were mad about wearing a mask, they're gonna be ready to put something to death when they're told they gotta take the MOTB.
Unease among Republicans about the prospect of a long, costly war with Iran. That unease has not led, and likely will not lead, to a broad revolt anytime soon.
Yes, that's why you're dumb as hell. Because if you understood the Bible, you would understand you're the wicked, and your best bet is to leave those Iranians alone. So the fact that he's bringing you over there is a form of you being destroyed. But you're foolish. You don't believe the scriptures.
Trump's standing within the Republican Party remains strong. His approval among Republican voters remains high. They trust him. That trust trumps the simmering doubts raised by a small, albeit prominent, slice of MAGA-fawning pundits and a few recalcitrant members of Congress. Kelly knows it. Rogan knows it. Carlson knows it. The trio understands that they operate inside a MAGA universe, fashioned and controlled by Trump. Their popularity and influence depend on staying there. They know the defining rule of Trump's gravitational pull: stray too far and you will be cast out. Predictably, Carlson avoided escalation. Instead, he declared his allegiance. He made plain that he still loves Trump. He reminded listeners that Trump had reshaped American politics.
Sell out. Makes me think of Isaiah 36. In verse 6, Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, wherein if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. Let's look this up. You putting your faith in the king of Egypt. Okay. Illustrates the folly of trusting in worldly alliances or strength rather than relying on God for security. They don't. That's what's wrong with these Edomites. They trust in themselves. Okay, but this system's gonna fail, and you're gonna be pierced by it because you put your trust in something that's gonna destroy you.
Kelly and Rogan may question the risks and dangers of war, but neither would wage a sustained attack on the president.
You would think that, you would have the capability to fight against the enemy before you went to war with them. You knew they had hypersonic missiles. You knew that all that shit was a joke, but your pride makes you think, all right, I don't need to. They're scared of me, so I can just attack, and they ain't gonna do anything. Well, you being proven wrong every single day that this war is not over.
Neither would dare tell Trump's loyalists to abandon him. A fleeting disagreement over Trump's reckless adventure in Iran will not translate into a lasting break. Even the most high-profile MAGA hucksters recognize that confronting Trump invites retribution and disaster. Their audiences overlap. Their reach thrives in the same ideological ecosystem.
These are the same people that go and fight with, they'll go to different protests and do stupid shit. It's just the whole movement as a whole, the base. I honestly, he probably pays some of these people outside with sitting on the tops of, you drive down the highway, you got a bridge, they'll be on the bridge waving flags and shit like that. Then for a minute, they didn't do anything. But now you waving it, and you pretty much saying, you cool with all this Epstein shit, the killing of kids in foreign countries. You're basically saying you down for all of that shit. That's why the Lord's gonna destroy this place. And it's not just them either. It's all these different protesting groups, man. They're hypocrites. I was watching some Iranians when the duck first attacked Iran and put kids to death. They were cheering on the attack. So while you were cheering, they were putting little kids to death. So it's not just MAGA. It's a bunch of different fractions. They got Esau got them all enchanted. This is why if you don't trust in the Lord, man, he got a lot of different spirits out here that can overtake you.
Picking an ultimately losing fight with the ecosystem's vengeful anchor is rarely good business. So MAGA is at the moment experiencing a touch of turbulence. It will pass. Which is why the constant search by establishment media for a dramatic MAGA schism keeps producing the standard results. Nothing much changes. Every time Trump sparks outrage, the same prediction appears. This time, the base will rebel. This time, the coalition will splinter. This forecast is a tired ritual. It ignores the fundamental nature of the MAGA compact. That connection is not rooted in briefs or blueprints. It is a secular religion where the leader is never wrong. Myopic scribes mistake a fracas for a collapse. They see tension and hope for a divorce. The believers are not preoccupied with the logistics of war or the mercurial logic of America first. They care about the man who gave them a voice. Once the friction fades, the skeptics will retreat. They have nowhere else to go. The undeniable magnetism of Trump's celebrity and command of MAGA reels most reluctant strays back. To leave that agreeable orbit permanently is to vanish into irrelevance. A bleak fate for provocateurs who have forged lucrative careers, amplifying Trump's ignorance, intolerance, and fury. The views expressed in this...
And you see that all over the internet. They ignore all the shit that he's doing, and they pretty much glorify all the bullshit. But they must be getting paid good. So, I want to see any other reason to do it. Because if you went to those rallies, you would have known about his duck coin. He would have told you, he would have had his public offering there, and had them invest in that time. And probably told them you should buy it today, invest in it today, and since they just do whatever he says, and they probably sitting up lovely, buying that shit on pennies on the dollar. Now that shit's up, and then it crashed. So everyone else got in late, but he already made a killing off of it, and some of his supporters too.
Article are the author's own and do not necessarily reflect Al Jazeera's editorial stance. By Andrew Mitrovica, Al Jazeera columnist.
So they saying the duck ain't divided on the Iranian war. Maybe they're cool now because they don't have to go there to fight, but that's, from what I'm hearing, there's different articles online. They're saying there's U.S. captives. They already got people captives. I don't know if it's fake. I looked it up and they said it was fake, but you don't know what's fake and what's real. But you don't know what's going on over there. It could be way worse than what he's telling you. I want to believe that everything's all right when hypersonic missiles and drones are being exploded. You're bombing them to smithereens, but yet they're bombing you at the same time. Duck accuses Iran of using AI to spread disinformation.
Trump accuses Iran of using AI to spread disinformation. U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday accused Iran of using artificial intelligence as a disinformation weapon to misrepresent its wartime successes and support.
You know what? I did see something with, it was Majaba in a coffee shop showing his hands like when Bibi was, not a Jew, was doing it. So maybe they know something, and no one's saying nothing about him. He should be talking by now. All these rumor and speculation, he still hasn't said anything. So he might be up out of here.
AI can be very dangerous. We have to be very careful with it, Trump said to reporters on Air Force One shortly after he made a post on his Truth Social platform where he accused Western media outlets without evidence of close coordination with Iran to spread AI-generated fake news. The comments come amid renewed tensions between the Federal Communications Commission and broadcasters after Trump took aim at media coverage of the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr on Saturday threatened to pull licenses of broadcasters who did not correct course on their coverage. Trump has frequently accused news media outlets of lying when they run stories that he sees as critical of him, and he has previously called for removing the licenses of broadcast outlets he views as unfair. Between the social media post and his comments to journalists, Trump on Sunday cited 3 instances in which he claimed Iran used AI to mislead the public. On Truth Social, he said that Iran had shown kamikaze boats that do not exist. He further stated that Iran used AI to falsely depict a successful attack on the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, adding publications that propagated the news should be charged with treason. Reuters has verified images filmed from the Iraqi port of Basra, which showed explosive-laden Iranian boats appearing to attack 2 fuel tankers, killing at least 1 crew member. Iranian state media did claim that Iran's military struck the USS Abraham Lincoln, though the claim was not widely picked up by Western outlets. Trump also claimed that images showing 250,000 Iranians at a rally to support new Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei were totally AI-generated, and that the event never took place. Several pro-government demonstrations have occurred in Iran.
Nigga, that sound like fake news. You're telling me they voted to get an Ayatollah, you couldn't participate in that, and you're telling me that's fake news, that their people wasn't happy. So they're happy about you bombing everything that they have to smithereens. They're happy about you bombing those little kids over there. They got a million people signing up for the military. You killed pretty much their pope, and that's AI generated. That they went in support of the person whose father got killed with other family members. Come on, man. That shit don't even sound right.
Iran since the war began, but a brief search by Reuters did not find any Western reports that cite a figure of 250,000. Many media organizations, including Reuters, have run news photos showing crowds in Tehran after Khamenei was named leader. Trump did not clarify the specific news reports from Iran he was referencing.
Of course he didn't. Of course he didn't. Where's your citations at? What you please? He ain't got no citations. Now it's disinformation. That sound like disinformation coming straight out of your mouth. Iran does not seek ceasefire, but war must end, FM says. This dude is funny, man. Cracks me up. Psalm 58, verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Right. They just, that's their natural way of speaking. Just lie, 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 lie. Psalm 58, verse 3 in the NLT. These wicked people are born sinners. Even from birth, they have lied and gone their own way. That's right. What is that? John chapter... forgot. 8. It's John chapter 8. And John 8 and 44. Ye of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Let's look this up. It describes the devil as a murderer from the beginning, a liar with no truth in him, and the father of lies, emphasizing that his deceptions are natural character traits, right? So that's just a natural, he's gonna lie about everything. Oh yeah, they got AI generated videos. They're they're doing all of this stuff, and we can't trust nothing they say or do, and it's just all lies, man. Context: Yahushua is addressing religious leaders who oppose him, asserting that their actions prove their true spiritual father is the devil, not Abraham. Right? At that time, it was Esau, because they were under the Roman Empire, so they wanted to, kind of still be in league. As long as they had the temple, they were good with being in captivity to the Romans, as long as they had access to the temple, because that is a lucrative, it brought in a lot of money. So that's the same mindset with Jakes today. You know, they'll continue to stay in this place as long as they're doing well. They don't care about the rest of the nation. As long as they're doing good, it's all right. The devil's nature, he is described as a murderer from the beginning, referencing the temptation of Eve, Genesis 3, and his desire to destroy Hamashiach. Well, the murderer from the beginning is talking about Cain. Well, I guess you can say the serpent too, because sin is that's the wages of sin is death. But Cain was the first murderer in the Bible, father of lies. This indicates that lying is the devil's inherent nature. I read that. Key message: those who intentionally lie and act on evil desires are aligned with the devil rather than God. He's aligned with the devil. This passage serves as a warning against spiritual deception, emphasizing the need to follow truth and reject the character of the enemy. Right. Ecclesiasticus 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. There's another precept I'm looking for. Stay away from your enemies, KJV, Ecclesiasticus. I keep forgetting where this precept's at. Is it Sirach 6, verse 13? Yes. Separate thyself from thine enemies and beware of thy friends. I like this precept because the world teaches you to do the opposite. Keep your enemies close and your friends even closer, something like that. I think that's the saying. But the scriptures say, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. So who am I going to listen to? And that's Esau. Put all that bullshit out there.
Iran does not seek ceasefire, but war must end, FM says. Iran is not seeking a ceasefire, but war with the United States and Israel must end, the country's foreign minister said on Monday, adding that the Islamic Republic will continue fighting until future attacks are prevented. He made the comments during the foreign ministry's final press conference of the Iranian calendar year, also attended by ministry spokesman Esmail Baghai. We don't ask for ceasefire, but this war must end, in a way that our enemies never again think about repeating such attacks, Arachi said, adding that Iran was prepared to continue the fight as long as necessary.
I don't sound like somebody that's afraid hiding in a hole and ain't gonna do anything. It sounds like he's speaking from, there ain't really no peace. It sounds like he's looking for regime change now.
Iran does not seek ceasefire, but war must end, FM says. Iran is not seeking a ceasefire, but war with the United States and Israel must end.
Just did that, man.
Iran.
This is stupid. Strait of Hormuz is open, but under Iran's control. We already know that. Well, if you don't, they're letting certain ships pass through. Foreign Minister spokes. It says ships from some countries pass through the Strait of Hormuz in coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, he said. So I know India got a ship through, China, probably even Russia and other countries. But he said American and Israeli allies, they're not getting their shit through. The spokesman heightened security measures in the strait were a response to what he described as a war imposed on Iran. But he's telling people that the strait is closed. But that's not what Iran's saying. Iran's saying people can go through there. So he probably has traps or those Iranian mines. He said that he was, I don't know if this is true or not. I don't think anyone confirmed it yet, but that's what they saying they put down there. U.S. assets. And then even all the propaganda. When he had war with ISIS, they were doing all types of different propaganda. So you even losing the AI race, and you spent billions of dollars on this shit, and he's beating you with that. Like, that don't even make any sense. So you losing even even on the propaganda. Your propaganda machine's even weak. No one believes nothing you're saying. All your memes are weak. You still making black jokes when the joke's on you. You getting bombed to smithereens. You about to go into a war with the people, and you about to go into their home court. You couldn't even draw them out to you. That's how you know the Lord. You falling for the snare. You falling for the trap. And he was asking NATO, you should help me? And Macron said, oh yeah, I'm gonna help. He said it, and then he never even did it. U.S. assets in region could be targeted. Of course, he already hit some of your assets in that region. Iran never trusted U.S. But Guy said Iran had never trusted the United States during diplomatic negotiations and had conducted talks in what he described as an atmosphere of absolute distrust, right? Ecclesiasticus 12 verse 10. Iran entered the negotiations with open eyes, he said, accusing Washington of ultimately undermining diplomacy. Of course they did. Okay. Of course they did. Tehran had engaged in talks in part to demonstrate to the international community that it was not responsible for the conflict, he added. Tehran was not responsible for the conflict, he added. Right. Isaiah 28. And Isaiah 28 verse 18, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. So your covenant with death shall not stand, shall be disannulled. So you can't make a covenant with Esau. Okay? Case in point, look at the Native Americans, look at the Latinos, look at the so-called African Americans. Every promise he's made unto you, he reversed it, he lied to you. Okay, and you still trying to make covenants with this nigga. Like, there's no covenants with death. He is as death according to the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. All right, so we've seen that. We know this, he's running the same game even with these other nations. But these other nations see what they've done to you. You know, it's just Jake. He's the only one that he don't understand. He want to go along and get along. No nation want to be in the position that you're in. Completely destroyed. You ain't got no country. You ain't even speaking your own language. You don't even know who you are. Who the hell wants to be like that? Even your forefathers didn't want to be like that. That's why the Lord tells you in Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, you're a degenerate plant. Nobody wants to be like that. I damn sure don't want to be like you niggas that are out there. No, I want to rule. I want to put my enemies in subjection. Like everyone should. You don't want your enemy to rule over you. Who the hell wants that to happen? Not me. And neither does anybody, any other race. Just you so-called stupid-ass niggas, spics, and savages, as Esau likes to call you. Jeremiah 2 verse 33, why trimmest thou way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. You trim your ways to seek love by not being who you are so other people can like you. If you be in Israel, nobody likes you. If you're an Israelite, they ain't supposed to like you. That's good. We don't like you either. Okay? But y'all like to trim your ways to seek love, so you'll start acting like the other nations and forsaking in yourself and your people. And I ain't talking about these niggas that are out here. I'm talking about your own laws, statutes, and commandments to be, because their ways is all sin. It's all transgressing the law. But you'll play the part so you can so they can feel comfortable around you. When you start talking about putting them in handcuffs and putting them in slavery and shit, who wants to be friends with somebody that wants to rule over them? They cool with you niggas because you gotta take the low road while they disrespect you, and you gotta be small around the heathen for them to be your friend. Fuck them people, man. They gonna die. Okay. And it don't matter if you like it or not. It's the Lord's will. Jeremiah 2 in verse 20. Where's that degenerate plan? I keep forgetting where it's at. Somewhere in here. Jeremiah 2. I thought it was. Where's the degenerate plant? You know what? Let's. Yeah, Jeremiah 2, verse 21. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? You look at the word degenerate, goes into one who fell from his ancestral ways. Okay, Jeremiah 2 and 21 is a metaphor from God expressing disappointment in Israel, stating he planted them as a choice vine or a pure seed, yet they degenerated into a wild or foreign vine. This verse highlights Israel's corruption and abandonment of God for idolatry despite their holy origin. That's right. Following these stupid ass heathen. Anything else? EU calls to end war are ridiculous. By a guy also rejected calls from European leaders. Who the hell is by guy? Let me see who this is. Ismaili Bagai Hamana is an Iranian diplomat and senior official currently serving as the 14th spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran. So he's a Minister of Foreign Affairs, a position he has held since October 3rd, 2024. A legal expert by training, he previously served as Iran's ambassador and permanent representative to the UN office at Geneva from 2018 to 2022. Also rejected calls from European leaders for Iran to end the conflict. So they're not even listening to Europe's calling them. They ain't even answering the phone, saying it was unreasonable to ask a country under attack to halt the war. That is unreasonable. That don't even make any sense. How you gonna attack me and then tell me don't fight you back? And then this is what these people are just dumb as hell, man. That's how Esau is, even on a man-to-man. He'll talk mad shit, call you a nigga, and then you smack the fuck out of him, and then, yo, stop hitting me, please. That's he actually does that even on a higher level. It's disgusting. People are tired of that shit. He actually does that on a military level. Straight bitch. Don't talk all that shit if you can't. And then your ass gets smacked. You always see Edomites getting their shit knocked for talking shit. They come up mad tough. And then when you put your hands and feet on him, he's just a little bitch. If he ain't got a sword on him, he's like a roach. He's nothing. It's just pathetic. He even does it, even when he does military strikes. You're gonna hit somebody, call them all types of shit and radical this and all of that. Now he's smacking you up, and you telling him to stop now. That shit don't make any sense. I wouldn't answer that call either. Asking a country that has been attacked militarily to end the war is ridiculous, he said. Iran did not start this war, right? You're childish. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 16. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning. And your king is a child, and woe means death and destruction. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 16 in the NLT. What sorrow for the land ruled by a servant. And he is a servant. That's Esau. The land whose leaders feast in the morning, right? You're greedy. You look that up. It was basically saying a king's job isn't to please himself, or take. The morning was like for business. You get up and you get to work. Before you take care of yourself. The mindset of, feeding, breaking your fast first before other things were, fixed wasn't a good sign. That's not something that a king should be doing. First thing you think about when you wake up is your belly. You know, your actions should be something like pertaining to your kingdom. It says, Iran entered the negotiations with open eyes. I read all of that. He made the comments in response to German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who said on Friday that Berlin was pursuing diplomatic efforts to end the conflict with Iran, warning that a prolonged war possessed serious risk to European security and economic interests. Of course it does. Well, you should talk to your big brother. That has nothing to do with Iran. They were chilling. It was all good about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. False flag ops in California. The Iranian spokesman also suggested that claims by U.S. officials that Iranian drones could reach the U.S. West Coast might be laying the groundwork for a false flag operation. Look at that. And a lot of people were saying that too. That they were setting up a false flag attack, that they can cause some type of attack and blame it on Iran so that they could probably implement the MOTB, like a Black Swan event. He said Iranian drones did not have the range to travel from the Persian Gulf to California, and accused Washington and Israel of previously using such tactics. Right. 9/11 is one I can think about. Who knows what other type of false flag attacks they be doing. Iran's armed forces openly acknowledged the targets they strike. He said, and do not claim attacks they did not carry out. Ooh, see? They're not like Israel. They're not like the wicked. They are wicked, though. But it made me think of Proverbs 28. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. That's the difference between the wicked and the righteous. You know, the wicked will do things in secret, and the righteous will be up front and bold with it. They out in the front. That's why the Lord told you, go out in the street corners. Don't let your light shine. They're darkness. You know, the righteous will be putting their face online. These niggas got masks on their face. You know, it just shows you the difference between the spirits. All right, because some niggas are wicked. That's why they hide behind the duck. Because the duck is like the forefront of the wickedness, so they can just let him do all the wickedness. Just like when they were putting you niggas in slavery, a lot of them turning their heads the other way. Oh yeah, you know, I don't like slavery, but they were okay with it as long as it ain't happening to them. So they're full of shit. So they were down with all that shit. That's why they gonna be destroyed. That's why they going into slavery. All right. Iran's armed forces openly acknowledged the targets they strike. He said, and do not claim attacks they did not carry out. Yeah, they're not taking credit for shit that they didn't do. The FBI warned, and that's how they always, a lot of these people work. They'll say they did it if they did it. And sometimes they'll take credit for shit that wasn't theirs, but they'll take the credit for it. Well, I don't know Iran, but like these different, like the Taliban and ISIS used to do that shit. Somebody blow themselves up, and they'll take credit for it. Yeah, we did that, even though they didn't. The FBI warned police departments in California recently that Iran could retaliate for U.S. strikes by launching drones at the U.S. West Coast, ABC News reported, citing an alert sent to law enforcement agencies. And I saw that. I even talked about that. But, hey, it's coming out of the dude's mouth. That's a false flag. And those drones, they said only 20 kilometers. Not 20,000 kilometers. I don't know how much that is in 20,000. Hold on. 20,000 kilometers converted to miles.
20,000 kilometers is equal to 12,427.424 miles.
Okay. How far does the Iranian drones travel in miles? 1,000 to 12,000 miles. The Shahad 136 suicide drones, which the duck was calling the kamikaze drones. So 1,600, 1,000 to 1,200 miles. That's nothing. How far is Iran from America in miles? So it doesn't meet the 5,600 to 7,500 miles away. But that don't mean that there's other ways you can build them shits here. These are supposedly $30,000 drones. They could probably set one up over here. Bullshit. What's this? U.S. not capable of hosting the World Cup. Blockade also raised doubts about whether the U.S. could ensure security for major international events, including the FIFA World Cup of 2026, in which the Iranian national team is taking part. He said international football authorities would need to address concerns about the country's ability to provide adequate security. I want to trust bringing your soccer team over here. He might do this. He might stage the attack right then and there and blame it on you. Iran is scheduled to play in Group G of the 2026 FIFA World Cup against New Zealand, Belgium, and Egypt, with its group stage matches set to take place in Los Angeles and Seattle in the U.S. Sports Minister Ahmad said on Wednesday that Iran would not take part in the tourney following airstrikes by the U.S. and Israel. So, whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't trust this dude, man. But it's just more bullshit. War's not gonna stop. It's gonna keep going. Jacob's trouble's around the corner. And it's gonna be just like what you see in other parts of the countries, other parts of the world. People fighting and doing all types of shit. Let me see if there's any more. Second Edges 15, I'll end it there. Second Edges 15 and 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun from the south, from the east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. So that's pretty much it. But no pity upon his neighbor, man. These people are going to be going house to house, taking whatever they can get if they got the power to do so. And I'm going to end it here. Lord's will, this was edifying. Shalom.